Okay, let's set the scene. It's June 2005. You're in a nondescript hotel room in Delhi. And in that room, you've got a retired spy master sitting with two of the toughest gangsters you can imagine. They're going over the final details of a top-secret operation. Then, bam! The door flies open. It's the Mumbai police, guns out. What happened next? Well, it's hands down one of the wildest, most mysterious stories in the history of Indian intelligence.
So, you gotta be asking, right? A former IB director and two gangsters in the same room? What on earth were they doing? The answer is pretty incredible. They were there for one reason: a secret mission to finally take down India's most wanted man. This, right here, is the story of the clandestine, off-the-books operation to assassinate Daud Ibrahim.
Now, to really get why this was such a huge deal, you have to understand the target. We're talking about Daud Ibrahim. And he wasn't just some criminal boss. No, he was the mastermind behind the horrific 1993 Mumbai blasts. After that devastating attack, he bolted straight to Karachi, where he was living pretty comfortably under the protection of Pakistan's ISIA. India kept sending piles of evidence, but Pakistan, they just kept denying he was even there. Diplomacy, you could say, had hit a brick wall.
So, with diplomacy going nowhere fast, one man figured, you know what, paperwork and official channels, they're not going to cut it. To catch a monster like Daud, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to think like him. And that man's philosophy was simple: iron cuts iron. His name, Ajit Doval, an absolute legend in the world of Indian espionage.
I mean, Doval's career reads like a James Bond script, seriously. This is the guy who posed as a rickshaw puller during Operation Black Thunder. He's the guy who went deep into militant territory and actually convinced commanders to flip. He was famous for his out-of-the-box thinking. And here's the kicker. He'd spent years undercover in Pakistan. He understood Daud's world inside and out. He knew how to move in the shadows. And yeah, he had technically just retired as the director of the intelligence bureau. But let's be real, a spy like Doval never really retires.
Now, Doval had been cooking up plans to get Daud for years, but they were always shot down. Too risky, they said. But then, in the summer of 2005, something changed. A piece of intel landed on their desk, and it wasn't just any tip. It was the golden opportunity, the kind of chance they had been waiting for 12 long years. A chance to get Daud when he was completely exposed.
So what was this big opportunity? A wedding. Yep, a wedding. Daud's daughter, Maruk, was getting married to the son of the famous Pakistani cricketer Javed Miandad. The actual ceremony was set for Mecca, but the big event, the grand reception, was planned for July 23rd at the Grand Hyatt in Dubai, and the intel was rock solid. Daud absolutely adored his daughter. There was no way he was going to miss this. He would have to leave his safe little bubble in Pakistan and show up. I mean, he kind of had to, right? To maintain his reputation in the underworld.
All right, so the target is going to be out in the open. Perfect, right? Well, not so fast. This created a huge problem. You can't just send a team of Indian commandos into Dubai to take someone out. Can you imagine the fallout if they got caught? It would be a massive international incident for India. So whatever they did, the mission needed one thing above all else: complete, total, ironclad plausible deniability.
And this is where Doval's whole iron cuts iron idea really kicks into gear. He knew he couldn't use government agents, no commandos, no spies, so he decided to reach into Daud's own backyard. Find someone who thought like him, who operated like him, and, crucially, who absolutely hated his guts. He was going to use the oldest trick in the book: the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
And that man was Chota Rajan. See, Rajan and Daud, they used to be tight, partners in crime. But the '93 Mumbai blasts changed everything. It completely tore them apart. Rajan started calling himself a patriot don, while Daud just saw him as a snake. Then, in 2000, Daud's guys tried to take Rajan out in a hotel in Bangkok. They nearly got him. From that day forward, Chota Rajan had one thing and one thing only on his mind: revenge.
The plan itself was just brilliant. So simple. The IB, with Doval pulling the strings from the shadows, would recruit Chota Rajan's best sharpshooters. They'd get 3 weeks of intense sniper training, be given top-tier weapons and fake passports, and set up in a room right across from the Grand Hyatt in Dubai. The moment Daud showed up for the reception, they'd take the shot. And here's the genius part. If anything went wrong, if they got caught, the Indian government could just shrug and say, nope, not us. It would look exactly like what it was supposed to look like: Just another bloody gang war.
So Rajan picked his guys, his two absolute best men for the job. First, Vicky Malhotra, who was basically his right-hand man. And second, Farid Tanasha, another super trusted and loyal operative. These were the two men who were about to be trained to take out India's most wanted man.
And this brings us right back to that hotel room where we started. It's July 2005, the training's done, the weapons are prepped, Vicky Malhotra and Farid Tanasha are in that Delhi hotel room getting their final briefing before they fly out to Dubai. And the person giving them that briefing? None other than Ajit Doval himself. You can just feel it, right? History is literally about to be made.
But you know how it goes. Just when everything seems perfect, fate has a way of throwing a wrench in the works. At the exact moment India's most audacious covert op was about to succeed, something totally unrelated, happening miles away, was about to bring the whole thing crashing down. It's unbelievable.
See, here's the thing. While the IB was playing this high-stakes game of national security, the Mumbai police were just doing their jobs. Their priority was good old-fashioned law enforcement. And guess who their #1 target was in a big extortion case they were working? Yep, one of the shooters in that Delhi hotel room, Vicky Malhotra.
The Mumbai police, under a guy named DCP Dhananjay Kamalakar, had been on Malhotra's tail for months. They managed to tap one of his calls, and they heard him planning a major hit. Now, they figured he was going after some builder or a politician, typical gangster stuff. They traced his location, and it led them right to that hotel in Delhi. So on July 18th, they show up, armed to the teeth, warrant in hand, ready to make an arrest.
Just try to picture that moment. The door bursts open. On one side of the room, you have the former director of the IB running the most important mission of his life. And on the other side, a bunch of cops who just see a wanted criminal they've been hunting for months. All hell broke loose. A huge argument started. Doval, and you have to remember, back then he wasn't the famous NSA he is today. He's trying to tell them, look, this is national security. These men are on a mission for the country. But the cops, they're just doing their job. They've got a warrant for a guy wanted for murder and extortion. They don't care about anything else.
So Doval gets the Mumbai police commissioner, a woman named Meera Borwankar, on the phone. He's pleading with her, trying to explain what's at stake. But here's the fatal flaw of the entire plan. The operation was so secret that almost nobody knew about it. So when Commissioner Borwankar hangs up and calls a senior IB officer in her own city, Mumbai, to double-check this crazy story, that officer, who's totally out of the loop, says, nope, never heard of it, no idea what you're talking about. And for the commissioner, that was it. Game over. She told Doval, sorry, I can't let them go.
And just like that, it was over. Vicky Malhotra and Farid Tanasha were arrested. The cops seized everything, the maps, the advanced weapons, all the detailed plans. The whole operation, months of planning, the one golden chance they'd waited 12 years for, it all just evaporated. Gone. Disappeared in the time it took to slap on a pair of handcuffs.
Okay, so that's one version of the story. A colossal, almost comical, bureaucratic screw-up. But hold on, because there's another theory. A much, much darker one. Years later, a former Union Home Secretary, R.K. Singh, dropped an absolute bombshell. He claimed that the whole police raid, it wasn't an accident at all. He alleged that some officers high up in the Mumbai police were actually on Daud Ibrahim's payroll, and that they deliberately wrecked the mission to save their boss.
So what happened to everyone after the dust settled? Well, Daud, of course, went to the wedding. He's still a free man to this day. Vicky Malhotra went to jail, got out, and then just kind of vanished into the underworld. His partner, Farid Tanasha, wasn't so lucky. He was murdered by a rival gang in 2010. And Chota Rajan? He was finally arrested in Bali in 2015, right after Ajit Doval became the National Security Advisor. Funny timing, huh? A lot of people think it wasn't really an arrest at all, but more of a rescue, to pull him out before Dawood's hitmen finally got him.
So it all comes down to this one question. What really happened in that Delhi hotel room? Was it just a tragic, unbelievable mix-up? A classic case of the left hand having no clue what the right hand was doing? Or was it a calculated betrayal from deep inside the system? The truth is, we might never know for sure, but the story of this almost perfect assassination, well, it remains one of India's greatest and most fascinating intelligence mysteries. So I gotta ask, what do you think happened?